Taysom Hill is Galactus, destroyer of worlds. He shredded the Browns and probably a bunch of fantasy teams too, with 3 touchdowns. The roof is literally coming down on the Cowboys and their season, and Bo Nix is getting historic. He's the second rookie all-time with 200-plus passing yards and 2 touchdown passes in 4 straight games. The other guy to do it? Peyton Manning. We got a lot to get to. If this is your first time to the channel, we love football and making not safe for work dad jokes. Every week during the NFL season, we recap the game's highlights and lowlights through a segment we call the NFL Roast. And at the end, we give away a soft pretzel to someone or something that we feel deserves it for that week. This is Shut Up Football. I'm Jeff Stoltzfus. That's Kevin. Subscribe if you want. It's time for the roast. It was Jaden versus Jalen in an all-holds-barred fight for the division. This was the Jahan Dotson revenge game. Finally, the Eagles would unleash the full potential of this first-round pick against the team that traded him. 1 catch, that's enough. Jake Elliott missed 2 field goals and an extra point. Field goals are like wearing sandals to a public urinal. Not a big deal until your aim starts to drift. No! They revealed that Jaden Daniels warms up with a basketball. I do the same thing before a buffet. Some say I'm the Michael Jordan of the Sizzler. Jalen Hurts was turfed and had to be checked for a concussion. He re-emerged like Batman running errands. Hurts said he beat the protocol, like he was running an Ocean's 11 style grift on his own brain. I'd tell him not to get so cocky, but he'd never remember. In the second half, Saquon Barkley had enough foreplay. He went full Christmas ham with 2 long-distance house calls. He could have had 3 if they didn't push their tushes in after he came up short. A play that has more elbows and assholes than a hot dog. Jalen Carter is one saucy little honey bucket. He's becoming a dominant force in the NFL and showing he's a consistent disruption. Talking during movies and spoiling gender reveal parties. Safety Reed Blankenship got his 3rd pick of the season. He's got a knack for finding the ball and the rhythm of a Catholic priest. The Eagles put up 20 in the 4th quarter. There was joy in Philadelphia. The fans celebrated with their tried and true custom, hoagies and domestic violence. It was Dolphins safe Tua versus George the Man. Mike McDaniel needed to keep stacking wins, or it was back to the sunglass hut with him. Tunga Vailoa said he wanted to get his guys in space. And on one play, Jonnu Smith had enough room to fit a stripper pole for a marching band. He housed it for 6. One of his 2 on the day, thanks to the Raiders' black hole apparently being in their coverage. No wonder it sucks. But he wasn't the only tight end going yard. Brock Bowers had over 100 yards and a score of his own. I like that Raiders owner Mark Davis doesn't wear suits. He seems like the kind of guy you could have 10 to 12 beers with and then let you cut his hair. The Raiders made major changes to their staff. They got a bunch of Turners and Scott, Norv, and Tina. Oh shit, Norv fell asleep again. Don't let Ike find out. Antonio Pierce was remarkably chill for a coach that could be fired at any minute via tweet. CBS came correct with the Dolphin graphics. Who thought of that? Annette? That's a thinking man's Dolphin joke for the kids. Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill scored 2. The Dolphins inched closer to a winning record, and the Raiders remain an orgy of sadness. Jameis Winston returned to New Orleans, and what they dubbed the revenge game. How dare you draft me 1st overall with expectations? But revenge is a dish best served cold, and there's nothing colder than the Browns. Jameis Winston sounds like a southern preacher reading Dr. Seuss.
I've made do with a lot. I've made do with a little.
In the heart of the forest, there lived a small spittle who played the kazoo on a fine golden fiddle. Winston had nearly 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, a lot of which went Jerry Jeudy's way. Ode to inertia, Taysom Hill had over 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. He can do anything, even fumble and throw an interception. I'd say build a statue to him, but he'd be the one to do it, probably mid-game out of the bones of his enemies. Foster Moreau blinded a guy to prevent an interception, and no one seemed to mind, so I guess that shit is legal. Whatever keeps the refs deaf, dumb, and blind. My marbled little Helen Kellers. Coach Darren Rizzi is growing on me. Maybe it's his ballsy nature, or the way he watches the game like it's got a gun to his family's head. This team still isn't good, but at least now they're fun to watch. Anthony Richardson was back in the lineup, treating his body like a discount piñata and smashing through defenders. He had 2 rushing touchdowns and another through the air to Josh Downs. The Jets tried a tight end sneak, and it fooled exactly no one. They had better luck running Breece Hall. Kenny Yeboah got his first pro touchdown. He went from IR to end zone in less time than it takes to say, "Who is Kenny Yeboah?" These teams had the saddest game of who wore it better. They actually said these words.
What could be the last gasp of the Jets' playoff hopes this year.
That was a reckless amount of optimism. Aaron Rodgers has provided fewer answers for the Jets this season than his time on Jeopardy! And he was the host. After the game, the Jets fired Joe Douglas. Another clear sign that they're burning the house down while still being trapped inside. Sam Darnold had to wrap his pinky because of stiffness. So you know, we all got stuff going on. Coach What's-His-Name was furious over a critical penalty that rejuvenated the Vikings at the goal line. He had to be restrained, and they flagged him for histrionics. He should have taken off his shirt. Is that illegal? Can you sun your beef in protest? A referee named Cleat? That's a little on the nose, don't you think? Sam Darnold was shaking his bacon, spinning 360s and escaping pressure. He snuck one across for 6 after the Vikings shoved his ass up over his head like a pair of earmuffs. Will Levis was sacked 5 times in this game. Andrew Van Ginkel put his stinkle all over him. But Levis made the play of his career, finding Nick Westbrook-Akina down the sideline for a score. It was absolute perfection from the Mayo Titan. Unfortunately, even extra mayo wasn't enough to overcome a team high in penalties. The Bears were rocking a new offensive coordinator. There's a lot of blame for the worst offense in the league, and everyone is getting fingered. Kyler Gordon failed to tackle Chris Brooks, shredding his shirt instead. He fell for the old dummy shirt trick, a classic ruse by gladiators who possess a cotton gin. DeAndre Swift broke free and made his way to the end zone, but it was the decision to go for 2 that would ultimately doom them. Caleb Williams got him in range for a field goal to win. There was just one problem. The NFL scriptwriters were huffing old farts out of a paper bag and looking for chaos. Blocked! Sweet fanciful Christ, the Packers escaped with a win, thanks to the tip of Carl Brooks' finger and the Bears' inability to take the PAT. This is a prison of your own making. The Jaguars took their bye week early. Mac Jones was as effective as thoughts and prayers. Despite coming from Detroit, the Lions are a well-oiled machine. Jared Goff threw 4 touchdowns. 2 went to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who spent the week breaking his teammate's hand. It was cornerback Carlton Davis. They put a cast on it. He looked like he was playing in a Mickey Mouse glove. David Montgomery had 2 scores of his own. To his credit, Doug Peterson looked pretty good for a guy who was about to punish himself with booze and sleep under his car tonight. Damn it, Lions! I've seen more mercy at a kill shelter. Patriots versus Rams is like watching a chicken fight an egg. That is a generous rendering of Drake May's neck. It looks like they switched to the donkey crayon. Matthew Stafford made tremendous throws in this. 4 touchdowns, 2 to Cooper Kupp, 1 to Puka Nacua, whose excellence nearly killed him. But Colby Parkinson got his best. A rainbow off the back foot. The Patriots got tricky with a touchdown to left tackle Verdarian Lowe. I loved him in Star Wars. Drake May was picked off, and the Rams have fought their way back to the middle. It's a Rocky story. Only Rocky is a data entry clerk, but he still gets beat up a lot. It was classic Steeler football, in that Chris Boswell accounted for all their points. 6 field goals. They'll get to the playoffs if Boswell has to kick them there. On the other side, Justin Tucker missed 2. I think somebody got a J. Tucky voodoo doll, and they're rubbing something on it. Iron Eagle issued a startling proclamation.
If you've got slime, we will find you.
For the 2nd time this season, Lamar Jackson ran around long enough to watch the entirety of Oppenheimer, only to see it bounce off his receiver. The Seahawks have the most botched snaps in the entire league. A new center did not help that. Brock Purdy was intercepted by a big man, off a deflection, an unfair advantage. That's just gravity. A simple completion to A.J. Barner turned into a melee. It was raining flags. which can only mean one thing: offsetting penalties. What do you know? 2 wrongs do make a right. This game went back and forth like pickleball for horny seniors. In the final minute, Geno Smith broke this game in half. A 4th down scramble for the win. You want this game? You gotta pry it from his cold, fumbling hands. Bo Nix has arrived. 4 touchdowns. He's like a white Drew Brees. The Broncos found success with all their receivers, even the shitty ones. Nix was building a rapport with Devon Vele, a 27-year-old rookie who I'm told is not a doctor or some kind of Benjamin Button situation. No Falcons could find the end zone on this day. I don't know what they were doing. Treasure hunting? Goat yoga? Javonte Williams was met with resistance, but he refused to be denied. He's so powerful, he doesn't even need feet. That's levitation, Holmes. Kind of an unfair advantage, if you ask me. Audric Estime leapfrogged a man that's 227 pounds climbing the sky like the house from Up. Why is everybody so chill about it? Except that lady. She knows what's up. Lil Jordan Humphrey scored after the defense lost sight of him, which just makes sense. He's Lil. It was the first time Kirk Cousins has had back-to-back games without a touchdown. A poor return after they gave him one of those giant checks like the Publishers Clearinghouse. I mean, I assume that's how they did it. The Chiefs were without their kicker Harrison Butker. He was busy on his college comedy tour. Jim Nantz could barely contain his excitement for this matchup.
Oh, the motions and the movement behind this Kansas City team. It's a wonder to watch it at times.
Yes, it's a wonder to watch. Like the pyramid or twerking. Of course, Patrick Mahomes was immediately picked off. James Cook drew first blood for the Bills.
James Jimbo Cook.
Jimbo? Well, if we're accepting suggestions for nicknames, then I submit Jimmy Jam Cookie Puss. Cookie Puss got a second score later, too. They introduced a new technology, Romo-Vision, where you see only what you're capable of. Tony Romo said the Chiefs have championship DNA, which I guess explains that commercial with Jake from State Farm and a centrifuge. Toss a little wombat DNA in there too. It will in no way help you win Super Bowls, but you'll poop cubes. A skill I think we can all agree moves the species forward as a whole. The Bills went for it on 4th down, and Josh Allen put the entire city of Buffalo on his back to win this game. Chiefs lose, and the 72 Dolphins can break out the pudding. It doesn't have to be champagne every time. J.K. Dobbins started the scoring after Justin Herbert executed his Christmas wish list.
Crew neck! Something in a plum or a periwinkle.
Herbert threw 2 touchdowns and ran for 65 yards with those big-ass giraffe legs. Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico were clueless as Jim Harbaugh stared directly into America's soul and asked it to swipe right like a thirsty-ass football hoe. The Bengals defense needed to toughen up.
Guys, come on! Coach won't buy us ice cream if we lose. I need my nutty buddy!
And I gotta ask, is this how you pass the concussion protocol?
They have 5 guys with at least 3 sacks.
Lad McConkey looks like he escaped from a middle school locker or a video game tournament featuring the Power Glove. I bet he reeks of Play-Doh and Funyuns. In the second half, the Bengals were rejuvenated after Logan Wilson's shin punched the ball out. Jim Harbaugh spotted a cannibalistic creature from Algonquin folklore on the field and sounded the alarm.
Wendigo! Wendigo!
Yep.
Jamar Chase snagged 2 of Joe Burrow's 3 touchdowns. He just missed on a 3rd one and reeked of evidence that he did unspeakable things to curry favor from the Tin Man. They say teams embody their coach. Apparently, stadiums can embody their season. AT&T Stadium was crumbling before the game. Huge sheets of metal were falling off the roof like a Boeing 737. It was Texas dandruff. One fell on the catwalk, and something had to be done about it. So they took it down and bolted it to Rico Dowdle. At least his 2.8 yards per carry makes sense now. This meant they couldn't open the roof for the game, which is a shame. I hear the stars at night are big and bright. The Cowboys faked a punt, but they failed to convert. It was sniffed out by John Mechie, who knows a cancer when he sees one. Their second failed fake punt of the season. Cooper Rush had a tough night connecting with his receivers. Joe Mixon was ripping off chunk yardage and got 3 scores. Halftime featured analysis from the Zach Brown Band and Two-Face. Cowboys fans have had only 2 minutes and 15 seconds of joy all season. Poor Jerry Jones. He looked like he was watching his high school integrate. Derek Barnett was flagged just for slapping a guy in the head. I'll tell you the real victim, Brandon Aubrey, whose 64-yard field goal was nullified after the penalty and kept the drive alive. Aubrey should have slapped the first Texan he saw for the offsetting penalty. You think these things are easy? What can you do from 64 yards away? Barnett made up for it later when he forced a fumble from Tebow Andy Dalton and took it for 6. Time to loot the stadium down to the copper pipes. On the plus side, some of it will come to you.
And now the soft pretzel of the week. Yummy. This week, the pretzel goes to the Washington Commanders. I know they lost last week, but we're headed into week 12 and they're 7-4. In many ways, they feel like last year's Texans, a team that went from turd to division contender in one offseason. And that's got to give hope to any current turds and their fans. It can be done. The Commanders had horrible ownership, a crumbling stadium, a mediocre coach, and lacked a serious quarterback. Now they have Jaden Daniels, who was my favorite quarterback out of the draft, Dan Quinn, who seems to be generally loved and is shaping the culture there, and new, non-Dan Snyder ownership that's looking to get the team a new stadium, hopefully in an area that's agreeable to the DMV. I need a new stadium so I can go watch Eagles games there. It's also evidence that teams need more than just the top quarterback pick to get back on track. I think the Jaguars and the Bears are a testament to that. It takes a village and all that. So congrats, Commanders and their fans. I can only cheer for you twice a year when you play the Cowboys, but after years of strife, you finally done the impossible and climbed out of the NFL's toilet. You are a legit team to be reckoned with and proof that with smart moves, a team doesn't need years to rebuild. And for that, I give you the soft pretzel of the week. Stay salty, my friends. Thank you so much for watching Shut Up Football. We do appreciate it. Please leave your comments below. Subscribe, like, say hi to your mom for me, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.